lovelies. This is Tabby here from tabbies.ca. And today I have Keri from Joyfully Stamped. Hi, Keri.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Great.
That's good.
Um, so, I guess we'll start the way I normally start. So, can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Well, I do a lot of different things, but I focus mostly on hand stamping. So it's kind of like engraving. I make like necklaces and keychains and all different kinds of stuff. Spoons is a big thing that we do. That's the main thing that I focus on, but I do a lot of other things too. I don't know if you want to hear about every little thing that I do, but you've seen all my stuff.
Well, I do know that you do a lot of things, like those the clay portraits you do for Christmas are really cool.
Yeah, the ornaments are really, really popular. Like this last Christmas that just happened, and then the Christmas before, I sold a lot of those actually. So people do actually really like those. And I like them too, actually. I saw them one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I can do that. And then the first couple that I made were kind of really weird looking, but then after I got good at it, they started to look good. And this year they were looking pretty good, I thought, and people liked them. So yeah.
Well, there's always a learning curve to doing something else, and that was your first really venture into clay, wasn't it?
Yeah, I never had tried anything clay before. I know I saw you do it a bunch of times, but I didn't really ever think about it. I just saw this one ornament and like when I was looking something up online and I thought, that's really cool. I'm gonna try to see if I can do that. Because I thought it looked really cool. And then mine look different than hers. You can never make yours look exactly the same as somebody else's. I don't want it to be exactly the same as somebody else's either, but mine look a lot different than the other person's that I was looking at, but I think they still are cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to get inspiration somewhere, right? So,
Yeah. Well, I've watched some of your other podcasts and seen other people that said they kind of copied somebody else too. So, I mean, it's not really a copy. It's just like, oh, I really like what that person did. I want to try something like that. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are out there that are still the same thing, but they look a little bit different. So,
well,
yeah.
if you remember all those years ago when I first started with clay, I started because I wanted those little dragons that I'd seen online and I couldn't afford them.
Yeah,
So I
I
bought the
remember.
clay and
Yeah.
tried to make them.
I remember that dragon too because you posted it on your like page from a long, long time ago. The little dragon
Yeah,
that you did. I remember the
yeah.
baseballs that you did too, though the little baseballs.
I love those baseballs with the little mitts
Yeah,
and they had the magnets. They were so
yeah,
cool.
they were cute. That
That
was
was all
cute.
because of you, actually. And not many people know that, but you're kind of the one that got me selling stuff, really.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Well,
nice to
remember,
hear.
well, at the same time I was doing that clay stuff, you had already started the stamping and you were doing the stamping.
Yeah.
And you asked me if I could make you, and I might get it wrong, but I think it was a transport truck, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it
Semi
was. It
truck?
was for my stepdad. Yeah, for his keychain. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got me to do a couple other things, and then the one I remember the most was all those pigs. I started making pigs. You wanted like
Pigs.
two pigs, and I made like 50 of them because I just it was so
I don't
cute.
even remember that. I do remember the transport truck, but I don't even remember the
Oh,
pigs. That's
the little
funny.
they were super small. They were like a ball with little feet and a tail.
Aw. I don't even remember now. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what did I want that for? I can't even remember. I'm sure they were cute though.
So Amazon is hard, you said?
Yeah, it's just it's not the same. It's like they have certain categories that they want you to put your stuff in, but then they want you to answer all these questions that don't make any sense. So like if you're putting like listing a keychain, for example, they want you to put like it'll be in the same category with like clothing. So they'll have all these questions about clothing that they want you to answer for a keychain, and they're making you answer them. But I'm like, but it's not clothes, it's a keychain. So how am I don't know what to put here. Like, it doesn't, half of it
Weird.
doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, it's very hard to try and figure out how to use it. And we only made like 10 of each item that we listed. And I think we did like 23 listings. So we made like 230 things and shipped it all to the warehouse. And we didn't do anything since then, because I've gone on there a few times and tried to like figure it out myself. Usually Justin helps me with that, because I'm like, oh, I don't have any clue about the computer stuff really. And so, yeah, he usually helps, and he hasn't wanted to do that recently. So we haven't done much on Amazon, but we have sold some things on there. So I know it is possible. Like, people really like our star ornament that we sell. It's like a hand stamped. It's actually, I have one right here. I'm going to get it out. It's just a silver star like this, but it has like I usually put a ribbon on it. And then it has like I put a little star here too, like a gold star. And then it hangs with the ribbon, and people really like it for some reason. I don't know. Those are all sold out, so we have to restock those. But yeah, anyways, Amazon's not that much fun, but I think that we could do good on there if we took the time to like figure out how to get all of our stuff listed up there.
So what is stamping like?
It's kind of hard. Like, when I first started it, my stuff sucked. It wasn't
It's definitely
good. Like,
gotten better. Like it's awesome now.
yeah, like, I mean, I think it looks decent now, but when I first started, I used to just do it on like washers that you can just go get from like TSC, you know, a bag of washers. And then, because, you know, first of all, I didn't have a lot of money to invest in it, so I was just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna find stuff here and there. Like, I'd find some metal stuff at Dollarama, and I would stamp on that and sell it. Just whatever I would come across, basically, that was cheap that I could stamp on, I would use it and then just see if I could sell it. I would buy stuff randomly too. Like, I remember there's these little pewter feet. I don't know if you remember those. I bought like a however many I could buy. It was a little foot, and I would stamp like either a name or a date on it, and then add a birthstone and make it into a necklace. And people really liked those, but again, like, I had to purchase them off of Etsy. So, you know, when I had some money, I could purchase some and sell some, but it wasn't the same as what I do now, which is, you know, Justin eventually figured out how to get to where we are now, which is way different than what it was back then. Like, it was washers only pretty much. And then after a while, he told me, why don't you like I was purchasing what they call blanks off of someone else. So someone else would do the metal and finish the metal for me, and I would purchase it from them. But then we eventually figured out how to do it all ourselves, and now we do it ourselves. But he told me, like, in the beginning, because he wasn't helping me in the beginning, it was just me. And then he's like, well, I think you might be able to go to like TSC or one of those type of stores and just get like a small sheet of metal and cut it out with tin snips or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So I went, and I did see that they did have like little squares of like aluminum metal, and we bought a set of like tin snip scissors. And at first, because he wasn't involved with it at all, I just would try to like cut around the scratches in the metal. Wherever I could find a spot that was good, I would cut stuff out of that spot. But eventually, once he got into it with me, like once we got busier and stuff like that, he figured out how to like sand it all. And we used to buff it all too, actually, which we don't do now because we just figured people didn't care either way. We started to not buff our stuff, and everybody still liked everything just the same. So we're like, okay, we're cutting that whole step out because it was taking way too long. We just didn't have time to do it anymore. So yeah, so basically we just buy like a huge sheet from a metal superstore of aluminum, and then I have all of my tracers that I made myself of like circles and squares and whatever we use, and we just cut them out by hand. We sand them by hand, and then I stamp them, which is one letter at a time. So again, it's not really like engraving. It looks a little bit like engraving. Like, a lot of times people don't know when you say hand stamping, they don't know what that is. And then you have to say, it's like engraving. And then they're like, oh, okay. So a lot of people don't really know what it is when you tell them, but you have to take one letter at a time and hammer it into the item. So if you have a big long phrase, like some of the bookmarks I make are like the whole bookmark long, you know, and I've counted before how many letters are on this bookmark because I just want to know. And there would be like 200 and something letters. So
Oh
you
my
have to
goodness.
realize, yeah, so I don't think, again, people don't realize it's taking me, one letter, hammer, one letter, hammer, and I have to do that 250 times just on that one bookmark. So I do like it though, like, especially just I like being at home. That's always been my thing. I've always wanted to work and be at home, but still make money. Be at home for the kids, but I still have always tried to make money. I don't I don't sit around. I'm always trying to think of what I can do to make some more money or whatever. So yeah, I think it is hard to start, but like I'm better at it now that I've practiced over the years. I know there's been times before, like when we've been so busy that my family's been like, well, why don't you hire somebody? And I'm like, because I can't just hire somebody. It's not something that you can teach somebody in like one day. Like it takes you many, many, many months of training to be able to, because you can't see what you're doing. Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? It's a metal stamp. You can't see through it. So I have to just line it up based on my eyesight and what set of stamps I'm using, where I need to line it up. So like you have to really practice at that for a long time before you can know, oh yes, this is where I'm going to put the letter, because otherwise your letters are going to be all over the place.
Well,
So
I
yeah.
remember when you first started, and like I remember you being on the front porch doing it on a rock.
Yeah, it's
And
funny. It's funny you say that because Bailey was mentioning that the other day. She's like, remember, or no, it was Tristan. He's like, remember when you used to do that on the front porch? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I used to have a brick that I set up on our couch, the arm of our couch, like in the living room. And I would just set it there on the arm of the couch and I would do it there. And he was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So yeah, we were just talking about that. But yeah, it's easier to do it outside because the lighting is better. So sometimes it's easier for me to see the reflection of the letter on the end of the stamp in the metal versus when I'm inside trying to do it.
oh,
So
okay.
that is one thing, but like obviously in Canada, we can't really be outside for the majority of the year. So most of the time I have to just figure it out inside, and I have like a light that's set up above me and a light that's set up over here, just trying to get the right perfect lighting so that I can see good, but it is hard to do, that's for sure.
Well, and for people who don't know what stamping is, we're talking about like a metal die, like this long, that has a letter on the other side.
Yeah, it's
And
more
you
like this
literally
long.
hammer it. Yeah.
Yep.
And you literally hammer it into the metal.
Yep.
And you can't hammer it too hard or you'll have the square from behind the
Yeah,
letter.
around it. Yeah.
And if you hammer it too little, you can't re-hammer it.
No, I mean, you can, but it's like you have to, again, you have to really practice at that, because there has been times when I've like, the hammer slipped and it didn't quite hit it properly. And then I'll have to try and reline the letter, like fit the letter back into the little spot I just made and try to stamp over it again. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to start all over, which really makes me mad if I've just stamped like 100 letters and then I mess up and I'm like, oh no, I have to start over. So it's definitely not an easy thing to get into, but like that's again another thing that I saw one day and I wanted to buy it myself. I'm always, looking at things that I like, that I want to buy, and then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can make it instead because I don't want to buy it. So I'm going to make it. And that was another thing that I just came across that I was going to buy. And then I was like, maybe I can just make this. And then I ended up buying a set of my first stamps, which I still use, off Amazon for $20. They were only $20, and they're my most popular font too. So it's crazy. Like you don't have to really spend that much. Like I'm saying, like you can get a giant sheet of metal from the metal store for like $40, and then you just buy your $20 stamps and a hammer that you usually have laying around your house, and there you go. And you can do that. So yeah, anyways, it is hard. It's not easy to learn, and it takes a while to get to know how to like keep the letters straight and the right depth stamped in, make sure that you're hammering it like the right exact pressure every time, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's hard.
No, it's a crazy thing. Like watching you do it, when you first got them, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I think I would like to try it. And then watching you do it, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. That's kind of hard.
Yeah, it is. I've actually, like, a few people have like asked me, about it. I'm like, why don't you try it yourself? Like, here you go. Here's my hammer. See if you can do it. Like, my kids have all tried it, and like my stepmom tried on a spoon because a lot of people can't do it on a spoon. It's hard enough on a flat surface, but then you're trying to do it on a curve. It's not easy. It is hard. It takes some time to figure out how to do it. And like, I don't have anything that's holding my spoon or anything straight or perfectly on my block for me. It's just sitting there. So it has to be just, I have to have enough pressure put on the spoon that it's just holding it in the right spot every time I stamp a letter on there. And spoons are a big thing. Everybody really likes the spoons. It's one of our top selling items, but they're not easy to do. And so I did tell my stepmom the one time she was over, I'm like, why don't you try it? Go ahead and see if you can do it. She was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do that. And Justin's tried it before too, because like I said, sometimes we're so busy that it would be nice to have a second stamper. Like, that's really
Yep.
the only thing we need help with. Like, if we were going to hire somebody, that's what it would be for. So it would be nice if somebody else knew how to do it, but he cannot do it either. So just me.
I keep telling Henry I'm going to train him how to make my patterns for my purses and stuff so I can design them all and do the fronts and just get him to put them together for me so I have time to do other stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's like you can't do everything by yourself. Like, goodness gracious. I know how to do everything for our business. Like, I know how to do, and like for a long time, and even still, I'm not very good at drilling the holes. Like, because we make everything ourselves, it doesn't come pre-drilled with a hole to like attach it to a keychain or a necklace or whatever. So he drills all the holes and everything, and he usually sands everything. But I do know how to sand everything, and I have drilled the holes before if I've had to, like if he's out or something and I have to get something done, then I just have to do it. But like, I don't usually, because I'm not very good at the drilling part, but it's just because I don't do it very often. I'm sure if I did it more, I would probably be fine with it. But yeah, I know how to do everything now for it. I can cut it, I can sand it, I can drill it, I can put it all together. So it's like, I could do everything, but like, stamping is just too hard for people to just figure out in like a couple of days. Like, I know I've seen a few people actually post, like last year somebody posted, it was actually my spoon, like they found my spoon online and they were like, oh, I found this spoon but it's too much, can somebody make it for cheaper or whatever? And I was like, hey, that's my spoon. And then the lady felt bad that she was like asking for it to be made cheaper, but she said that she was going to try to make it herself. So she actually went out and bought spoons and stamps and thought, oh yeah, I can just, quickly do these myself. Nope. She's like, I cannot do this. This is not going to work. I can't make these. So somebody needs to do these for me. And yeah, I've seen a few people post that actually. And even a friend of mine bought stamps and stuff a couple years back. And I mean, she didn't really try to like dive right into it or anything, but she she didn't she didn't do it anyway. So it's not that easy. It's hard.
It is hard, and there's a lot to it too. You have to understand, like spatial awareness needs to be very high for that.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to figure it out.
So, um, when did this become a business for you? Because, like, I know you've been doing the stamping thing for a long time, and before that, you did the names, and like, I mean, you've been creating for as long as I've known you, I think, and I've known you for well, at least 20 years.
Yeah, since before I had Tristan, because I remember meeting you. I think even I was either pregnant or just before I got pregnant with Tristan. So
It was right
yeah,
about the same time because I already had Nathaniel, and
yep.
Nathaniel's 20 this month.
Yeah. The first time I met you was in Tilsonburg. You were leaving for work actually. We came over to your apartment and you were on your way out. And
Yep,
it was basically just Henry there, but that was the first time I met you. But yeah, long time ago.
it was a long time ago.
I can't believe it was that long ago. Like it seems like crazy. How is it 20 years? Like holy cow.
We've raised adults since we met each other.
I know, which is weird because it's true. It doesn't feel like that much time has passed. Like you see your kids and how old they are and they're all 6 feet tall and all this, but it's like, what the heck? Like it doesn't feel like it's been that many years. It's crazy.
I know until you try to run or try to climb something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my knees. I know. I always think to myself, like, I'm not that old. Like, should I feel this bad already? Like, I don't know. Like, what am I going to feel like in another 20 years? I'm worried to see it. But
I
yeah.
pulled a hamstring trying to chase Robbie this summer. Like
Oh,
he ran to the back of the yard, and I took off, and I took probably 12 strides and just dropped on the ground.
dropped. Oh, no. Yeah.
I had to go to physio because I hurt myself so bad.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. That's tax getting older. I know that's when you think you can still
Oh,
do things, but you can't.
don't worry, your
Oh,
kids will tell
well.
you. Your kids will tell you all of them.
Yeah, I know. But yeah. Well, so yeah. So yeah,
But
I've
when
been
did you
creating for
start
a long
making a
time.
business with it?
Um, so that would have been probably, I mean, if you want to, I don't really count, selling stuff on Facebook, but maybe I should. I don't know. One year, because I did all those names, I did actually post an ad on Facebook. I paid to run an ad, and I was doing like a sale. So I sold a lot of names, the painted names then, doing that sale. And then the same year, I think some lady that was on a page for like buying stuff in bulk. It was like a bulk page, and people would put stuff on there for like, if you buy this many, and if everyone in the group just comes together and buys it all at once, then you would get a smaller price. So people like me would go on there, and I sold one year like the Christmas ball things, but I would hand paint them. So again, it was the same as my names, but I did it on a
The
Christmas
ornament,
ball. Yeah. So
right?
like I would, and because again, like the clear ones would be so expensive. So a lot of the time I would go to the dollar store and just buy like colored ones, and I would paint them, with layers of paint so they would be a certain color, and then I would paint the design on there. So that's what I normally did. But again, it would take forever because you'd have to paint a layer and then wait for it to dry, and paint a layer, wait for it to dry. My kids would help me with that sometimes, actually. They would all be painting. I had some friends come over and help me do that a few times. And
I was one of those. I
yeah,
remember
so it's
coming over.
painting the
We had the
stupid
big
balls, right?
we
Yeah,
had that big foam thing with all the sticks and all the
yeah,
balls were upside down
yeah.
drawing on them. Yep.
You were one of the people I made come and help me, eh? That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I had a few friends that came and helped me do that a few times, because that year I think I probably sold like 250 or 300 of those balls, and like I had to get them all done, in a short period of time. So I remember taking a picture of them all on my floor, and it was like a huge like circle of all of these Christmas balls. And I did some crazy ones. Like some people wanted me to paint like the Blackhawks logo, which is like the Indian with the feathers and everything. And I had to
Yep.
do that one a few times, and that one took me a long time to do.
That's
And there's
not
a
an
few
easy one to
other.
do.
No,
I
it's
made
not.
Henry a painting like that. Like I made
Ugh,
the Blackhawks logo for Henry for his
yeah,
birthday the one year. That's not an easy logo to do.
no, it's not. And there's a bunch of different, like, there was a soccer, Manchester United. I had to do that logo. It's
Ooh,
a
that's
soccer
intricate.
logo. Yeah, it
Yep.
was a really hard one too. So yeah, there was a bunch that people ordered that were like, come on, you paid like $5 for this. Like, do you have to like pick the hardest design you can possibly think of? I should have put you live and you learn, I guess. I should have put like parameters around it. Like, you can only order this type of thing. It can't be some like crazy elaborate design, because like that's going to take me way too long to do. And then, I'm making like 10 cents an hour. So yeah,
Yep.
I should have probably done that, but there wasn't that many of those. There was only a few, so I guess I just kind of figured, yeah, whatever. I'll do the couple that are like that. And anyways, yeah, so I did pretty well that Christmas because I made a lot of names and I did a lot of those ornaments. And I used to make like all kinds of stuff. Do you remember my felt stuff too? Oh my goodness, my
Yes.
felt
The felt
pizza.
food and the clips
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
I did like the button-on toppings on my pizza. That was my favorite thing that I ever made out of felt. But I used to do finger puppets and all kinds of stuff out of felt too. But yeah, like I don't know. Anyways, the stamping more so grew into a business. I'd say more like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, putting more of the stuff online and stuff like that. And yeah, we sold a lot of it, and it was made into a job for us. So it was good. We bought a truck. We did a lot of things that we never could do before. And so, yeah. it's been good since then.
Good. And it's hard to make a business, and people don't realize that. Like, even if say you're a super talented artist and you manage to be able to start everything up really cheap and you're not out of pocket too much, it's still hard. You
Yeah.
have to put in like a crazy amount of work to
Yep.
get anything to really take off.
Well, that's the main thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize that either. Sometimes I think people just think an artist is just lazy. You know, they don't want to work. They
Yeah,
don't want to go work a regular job. It's like, it's not like that. And we work a lot. We work hard. Like, you know, I know you work hard. I've worked harder than probably most people I know. Like, we
yeah, I'd
sometimes at
agree.
Christmas time when we get busy, it's like 18, 20-hour days. There's a few times I stayed up all night long. Like, for a few days in a row because I'm like, I got to get all this stuff done. So it is a lot of work and you have to wear all the hats, you know? It's not like you're working for
Yeah,
someone else's business. It's your own. So you have to do every single thing. You have to answer all the messages. You have to do the orders. You have to pack the orders. You have to list everything. Like you have to do everything yourself. So it's not definitely not easy. And I think a lot of people that, you know, start up their own business like that, a lot of the times, like you'll see a lot of shops pop up on Etsy and then all of a sudden they'll be gone. It's because people can't handle it. It's a lot. It is a lot of
it
work
is a
to
lot.
do, and you have to want that lifestyle because sometimes it sucks. There's been times, you know, when people say, well, I want to do that because it'll give me like my free time to be able to do whatever I want when I want to. Yeah, exactly. No, it doesn't. Like there's lots of times when we've had to say no, we can't come because we have 50 orders due in 2 days. We have to get those done. That's our priority. So we can't go. So there's lots of times when we've had to say no to things. And actually 3 years ago, like right before, or I guess it was right at the time of COVID, we had moved from London to where we are now. And um, like we were supposed to go to Florida. Every year my mom, she has this friend that can get us apartments for really cheap. So we just always would go every year. That was always paid for, so it was a cheap trip basically. Go to Florida every year. So that year though, before we knew all this crazy stuff about COVID, I had told my mom actually that year we're not coming this year, which was a huge thing for me because I love going. Kids love going. It's a yearly thing that we did with my mom. It was a family thing, you know. So I was upset about it. I didn't want to say no, but I'm like, if it's our business on the line, I can't
Yeah.
do it. So I'm like, so we're just not going to come this year. And then ended up being good because no one could go that year. But I was still like, you know, I made the decision and had already told the kids we aren't going this year because like I wanted to make sure that we could keep things rolling with the business okay and not take that time off and that sort of thing. So it's not easy, you know, like people think, and you do work hard because it's more like a hustle. You know, you are
Yeah.
the one that's hustling to bring the money in. It's not the same as working for another business where they're having to do all the hustling and you're just working for them, you know.
Yep.
So it's a constant, basically 24 hours a day thing for the most part. Like there are times when I wake up in the middle of the night and answer people's messages and stuff like that, you know, because you want to be fast and, you know, get people their answers right away. And most people are very good. I will say that most people are. There's always a select few, you know, that ruin it a little bit, you know, leave a bad taste in your mouth, I guess. But for
Yeah.
the most part, it's probably 98% of people are good and 2% of people are not. But that's with everywhere. That's with every business. That's with everything you do. So that is what it is.
And the longer you do it, the more you meet people, the more people you meet, and there's all
Yeah.
kinds of different personalities in the world.
I mean, I wish, like I said, that I could do shows because I do. I like back in the day when I was younger, I didn't. I was a lot more shy. I was a lot more like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to meet people. I don't really know what to say to people, that sort of thing. So I'm a lot more different now, probably since I've had kids, because you basically have to do things once you have
Yep.
kids. You don't have a choice. You have to call the doctor. You have to call the dentist. You have to do all that stuff. So eventually,
Yep.
like you're okay with it. I'm fine with it now. And like, I think it would be fun to do a show and talk to people and meet people and that sort of thing. But like, I just have I haven't done that many, but I think over the years, in the last 5, 6 years, I've done none. But before that, because I swore them off, I'm like, I'm never doing them again, because you pay a pretty ridiculous fee for most of them. Like some of the ones I went in were like ones that are decent shows, like, so I went in the one in Tilsonburg one year, the Down Home Country Christmas, which
Oh,
is,
and that's a
it's
pricey
a big
one.
one. Yeah, and it's like
Yep.
$150 or something for a table.
Yeah.
So I paid that, and then zero orders, nothing. Nobody bought anything. So I was like, what the heck? And then, it just depends what people are looking for, I guess, for the most part. But it's like, I know my stuff is good because I've sold it a lot online. But for
Yep.
some reason, it just seems like people in person aren't looking for whatever I have. And the other thing is, a lot of my stuff is customized, so I can't really bring stuff to a
Yeah.
show when it's custom. So that's the other thing for me. I can't do that. I would have to have all like generic stuff, and maybe people just don't want what I have in a generic form. They would prefer to have it customized. So
And the
yeah,
stamping is not, you can't do that at the show. Like, you probably could, but it would be so
yeah,
hard.
it would be like I could have things that were like made up already and then just add a name or something, and that it wouldn't be too hard for me to do at the show. But like, yeah, it would be a little bit of a pain if like I'm having people at my booth that are trying to ask me questions or buy things, and I'm in the back trying to stamp something for somebody. So
Yeah.
wouldn't really work very well, but I have thought about that. Like maybe I could do it like right on site. Like maybe people would think that was cool. But at the same time, if there's too many people there, you're not going to be able to do everything at once. So yeah,
And you're going
a
to miss
friend
out
of
on
mine
sales.
actually, a friend of mine does this one thing that I think is really cool. I've told her I want to do it now too. Add another thing to my list. But she does a lot of shows, and I think she does ever permanent jewelry. I don't know if you've ever heard about that.
No, what's that?
It's like jewelry that they attach to you so it's permanent. So it's like welded directly on. So the chain doesn't have a clasp. They weld the chain together right there on site so it doesn't come off, so it stays there.
Oh,
So yeah, so she does shows actually. She just started it like a few months ago, and she's been doing shows all over, and she does really good at all her shows. So I'm like, that would be fun. I would actually really like that, but I think it's a little bit of initial investment in that one, unfortunately, because you got to
yeah.
buy. She has like gold chain and silver chain and all that kind of stuff, so you have to buy all that
Yep.
stuff to start with. But I think that's really cool, and that's something I think people would like at a show because like you can have it done right there. It's something you could do with a friend. It's all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know why my stuff never sells at a show, but that's why I never do them anymore because you end up paying all this money out and then getting nothing back for it. And you're putting a lot of work into it too, You have to make all the stuff to bring there and have a
Oh,
ton of
yeah.
inventory to sell.
And that's
So
on
yeah,
top of what you're selling online.
yeah, exactly. So it's a lot to try and like one time I went to do another show where instead of paying, they were having people like put stuff into their draws that they did. So they picked like the value of the cost of the table and my products they picked, and I had to make them stuff to get the table. So that was one thing. I had to make them items for the table instead of paying for it, then also make items for my own table. And it was like, oh, I can't do that many things. Like I can only do so many things. And then
Yeah, you're
yeah, it
only
just
one person.
never worked out. Like I think a few people took like my phone number or something because they liked a few of my hand painted names. But I think somebody actually did message me once, but then they never actually ordered one. So I was like, okay, that's focusing my time into an area that's just not going to work out for me. So I just don't
Yeah.
do it anymore.
And maybe it would work better if it was like an outdoor thing too, right? Where you could get the sunshine on the metal and stuff. Because
Yeah,
a lot of your
maybe.
pieces are awesome. Like, I love what you make. I actually still have some somewhere in my room. I have some jewelry that you made
Oh, cool.
years ago, and I still have it.
That's funny. I don't even remember any of that either. I know it was so long ago when I started. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I know here in like where we live now, I actually didn't know about this until like I saw the stuff all set up around town. But the next year I might actually do it because it's free. A lot of the stuff they do in our town here, they just you just set your stuff up. If you're in town, you just do it for free. They don't charge you anything. So I'm like,
Oh,
so
sweet.
if it's free, why wouldn't I? Because who
Yeah.
cares? You're not really going to lose out on anything. But they did one thing where it's actually everybody, anyone that has anything they make or sell, they just set it up outside of their house. And then everyone, they have like a map. So it's called it's called art something, and like
Okay.
some type of arts thing. And it's basically just like a show, only people just set the tables up outside their home. And then they have a map
Yeah.
where it shows you where all the different people are located, where you can go look at their stuff. Because I was just driving around the town one day and I seen all these tables set up, and I was like, what is all this going on? Like, I didn't know about this. Like, I would have done that for sure. So I'll have to look into it next year and like find out
Yeah.
when it is, because I'm probably going to try it out next year and just, it'd be fun just to throw a table up and see what happens.
Well, and the fun thing about that is you could literally offer custom work right there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is just getting your name out there too, like showing people what you do, and the fact they know that you're local too, and now they know where you are. Like, it's hard to get your name out there, especially in a smaller town. Like, there's only so many places you can post things. And I find now, especially Facebook like groups, everything is just, there's so much stuff. Nobody sees anything in there. And they have
Yeah.
it set up some weird way now on Facebook where you can't even see everything that is posted. Like, or you have to change something in the group to see everything. Or so half the people aren't even seeing any of your stuff anyway. So there's not really anywhere to post anything and for people to see it or know that you even sell it. So that would be a good way, I guess, in a smaller town to be able to at least, this is what I make and this is where I am if you want to come get something from me. So yeah, I might
Yep.
try that next year.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a great idea. At least to
Yeah,
try anyway. Like,
yeah, for sure.
um, yeah, so you've been doing the paper stuff, right? Like I know you did name banners and like party
Yeah.
kits kind
Yep.
of. Um, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like the one you showed me just the other night, the table or the cake topper, those are
Yeah.
so elaborate and pretty.
I like that one too. Again, it's just something new. Like, I was already doing the banners. I started the banners last year, and I don't have that many of them done yet. That's more of like a just started it type thing. Just something like I wanted to start on the side, bring in some more money with something else. So, and again, like I told you, something that's cheaper to create in the first place. You just basically need paper, glue, and ribbon. That's it. So to me, it's pretty cheap. So yeah, I started doing that last year, and I haven't sold any of those or anything online yet because I only had like 10 of them made or whatever so far. And so I need to get some more samples done. And my friend, actually, that's a photographer, said she was going to take pictures for me, because that's the main thing, is your pictures. I hate taking
Yeah.
pictures, and I don't have a good camera. So it's like you can only take so good of pictures with the lighting that you have and what you have at home. And I don't, my pictures aren't good for the banners, I don't think. I can take good ones for my stamp stuff, but for the banners, it's the lighting is not good in my house for those. So you can't really tell the exact color that they are and stuff. They look like different colors, and you can't have that, because then people are going to think they're getting one thing and then it's going to show up and be something totally different. So I'm going to have her take all the pictures for me and stuff like that before I really start getting into that and adding stuff online. But yeah, I like doing that too. It's not as good as the stamping, because the stamping is a lot faster. So, and the majority of the things that I do now on there are spoons, like I said. So I'm not having to make the spoons. I purchase the spoons and then just stamp on them. So it's way faster. Like, it only takes me like 5 to 6 minutes to do a spoon. So the spoons
And
are
and
where
that
it's at.
that 5 to 6 minutes is 10 years of practice, just in case anybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, I could do that in 5 to 10 minutes. No, no, no.
Yeah. Well, it's still hard. Like, it's still, and the other thing is the spoons really hurt my hands. Like at Christmas time, like, as if we have a lot of them to do, if I have to do, like, sometimes at Christmas I'm doing like 50 in a day, and that's a lot. And like, because you have to hold the stamp so tight, like to make sure that it all stays good on the spoon, you have to hold it really tight. So my hands are like bending backwards and stuff like that when I'm holding things, and it starts to really hurt after a while. So that part does suck for that, but yeah, that's why I'm trying to get into a few more other things, because I know eventually I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. Like my hands will be too old. And
Yep.
they just are not, they're going to not cooperate. They're going to be like, nope, I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm not going to be able to do it. So eventually I have to start moving on to doing other things that I'll be able to actually still do when I get a little bit older and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's where that comes in. I'm just going to do like banners and cake toppers and any type of basically party supplies that I can make with paper. So yeah,
No, and I mean, from what I've seen, they're awesome. Like I love the banners. Like
I need to
I've
make some that are like less elaborate though, like you're saying. Like I don't know. Sometimes I'm trying to make some that are like a little bit cheaper and then some that are a little bit more expensive. But the cheaper ones are probably better. Like I have looked at a few shops that have like cheaper ones and they're just very basic. Like it just has, you know, if it was a ladybug theme, it would be like black and red and white and like the name in the middle with a ladybug on each side, and that's it. You know, nothing, no like, you know, borders on it or no stuff on the letters, none of that. It's just very simple. And I need to do more of that because a lot of the ones that I did were like, I made one for my niece where I did like confetti, and all on her whole name I did little teeny different colors of confetti all around the letters. So I had to
think you
glue
showed me that.
every single little confetti piece on there, and I'm like, maybe
Oh,
I shouldn't put that one online because that one took me forever, and it would, yeah, that would be, I would have to charge a lot because it takes forever to glue all those little pieces down. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm probably going to make some that are a little bit less elaborate.
Well, they're still awesome. They're an awesome thing that you make there.
Yeah, thanks.
But I like a lot of the stuff you make. Like I know you still sell most of it, even though you don't have it all up right now. But yeah, I love everything you make. I've been
Thank
following
you.
you for a while.
Yeah. Well, I like all your stuff too, so there
Oh,
you go.
thanks.
Yeah.
I know it's hard, like with Robbie not in school and everything. It's hard to find time to make, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I know, like my kids are all older now, so I don't have that problem anymore. But sometimes when my goddaughter comes over, then I'm always like, well, I'm not going to get anything done for the next 4 days because, yeah, she's definitely very busy or she wants to help with everything. And I'm like, no, you can't help with this. Like, I'm sorry. You're going to have to make your own little clay thing over here because I can't have you helping with this. And yeah, so I usually just try to put everything away because it's just easier that way versus having to tell her no, she can't. I feel bad, you know, no, you can't help me with this. But so I just usually put everything away. So I get that. When my kids were younger, it was definitely hard to try and I did daycare at the same time too, if you remember. So it was
Oh,
like,
I do remember.
oh,
You were,
my whole
yeah.
table was like this high full of like paint and all my painting stuff. And then I would
Yeah.
have kids and I'm babysitting all day and then I would paint all night long. And yeah, so it was definitely interesting.
No, I hear that. I have many paintings that have been ruined. Well, I suppose you could take it as an artistic impression, but where Robbie's like smeared a paint on it, or he's like dumped a jug of paint on it because he's like, I like this color, Mom, and I'm like,
Ah, yeah. I'll just dump the
no.
whole thing right here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like you wake up in the morning and he was so quiet because there's been a couple times now where like I wake up in the morning and he's so quiet, you don't hear him, and I'm like,
Uh-oh.
he must still be sleeping. I get up and I make up the coffee and I hear something. I go in my room and there he is painting. I'm like,
Oh
no.
no. Yeah. It's they always say when it's quiet, there's always something bad happening. So
Oh yeah. And this one, it's funny because I'll be like, what are you doing? Nothing bad. That's
nothing
my sign.
nothing bad. Yeah. They always know how to tell on themselves, that's for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, last
So
time my god oh, go ahead.
what? No. What
No,
were you
you
gonna
go
say?
ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say last time my goddaughter was here, I accidentally left a nail polish up on my dresser. She was in my room watching cartoons. I was like making dinner or something, and she always watches cartoons usually in my room because the dog is out there. And she doesn't want to be bothered by the dog. So I'll put her in my room and she'll watch TV in here while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And then I'll check on her. So she came out and Bryn was out in the kitchen and Bryn's like, what is all over Ella's face? And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh no, what? So she's like, I don't know, but I see like sparkles all over her. And then I started thinking and I'm like, oh no. So I look and she got nail polish all over her whole entire self. It was on her face. It was on her arms, her legs. All her clothes were covered in it. I come in my room and there's nail polish all over my bedspread, nail polish all over my sheets, sparkles everywhere. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I forgot about that nail polish. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I don't have little kids here. So like I try to make sure before she comes over that anything dangerous especially is put away. But like nail polish, you don't really think about that. It was just one little thing on my dresser and you think it's high out of the way, but she stood on my bed and grabbed it. So yeah, I know. I'm like, dang it. Ugh. Oh well, that's what happens.
You gotta love kids.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask, because I ask every one of the artists that I have on, what would you say to any emerging artists? So like, if they wanted to do any of the crafts you're doing, stamping or whatnot, what would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give an emerging artist?
I'm never good at these kind of questions, but I don't know. I think I would tell them to go for it first of all. Like if somebody's interested in something, like that right there is a good thing. Like if you're interested in it, that's cool. Like something is making you interested in trying it out, then I think you should follow that and go for it and see what you can do. At least try it. That's the other thing. Like a lot of people think they can't do certain things, or maybe even with me talking about how hard stamping is, people will be like, oh, I don't really know if I want to try it. But if you can get a set of stamps for $20, like, why not? Why not try it out? And you can make a lot of cool stuff with it. And it doesn't have to be stamping. It can be anything. But, like, it's fun to see, or to have something in your head of what you want to do and then actually see it done when you're finished. That's the main thing I think that any artist is always excited about, is like seeing I'm a lot better at seeing something already made and then more so sort of copying it. Like my stuff is not exactly like someone else's is or whatever, but I'm better at like seeing an item and then making it instead of having a vision in my head. I'm not very good at like having my own vision in my head and then doing it. I'm better at seeing something and then being like, oh, okay, I can do something like that. And then I'll make my own version of it. But I got the idea from someone else's thing that they made. But yeah, I think it's cool, especially with my clay stuff. A lot of times people ask me to do certain things. Like at Christmas, one lady ordered 11 ornaments from me, first of all. And I was like, 11? Holy crap. So a lot of the ones she wanted were like weird, She was like, one of them, she wanted a house in it, or it was a building or whatever, but she wanted it sort of out of focus. And I'm like, how do I do that with clay? I'm not sure what she means really, and even a building, I'm like, so far I've only really done people, and it's the same exact version of people, but just making their hair different colors and their clothes different colors. It's not like I've really done anything too different. So I was kind of worried about that one. I always say yes to it at first, and then I'm like, I'll figure it out, And I was actually happy with that one, but I had no idea what I was going to do because it was like an old building that a couple must have bought or whatever. So it was like an old white building, like a rectangle sort of thing. It had windows all down it and then pillars all around it. And then I think it had like a green or a brown roof and then sort of like a porch around it. So I'm like, how am I going to do that with clay? Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do for that, but I figured it out. I did it. And then I actually thought that it looked decent. Like, I was worried that it was going to look really crappy, but I liked it and the lady liked it. So I was like, wow, I can't believe that I actually got that done. And, some of the stuff people asked for, like a few people wanted me to put different kind of animals in their One lady wanted a lizard, a frog, a fish, and a cat with no eye. There was like a bunch of animals on the one ornament, and I was like, a fish? How am I going to put a fish in there? Like, should I put a fish just like floating off in the middle of nowhere? Should I put a fish in a bowl? Like, I have no idea what to do. So it is hard. And I've done like a lot of stuff with clay, like guinea pigs and horses. And I even did a baby Yoda with clay. Somebody asked me to do like a Yoda ornament. I'll have to show you that after because I was worried about that
Yeah.
too. I'm like, how the heck am I going to do that? But yeah, it is cool to see the picture beforehand and then, you know, go through the process of figuring it out and then seeing the finished product. So it is a sense of accomplishment, like you accomplished something. So yeah, I feel like it's good for anyone to get into. If you're interested in it, try it out and see, because yeah, it might give you that sense of accomplishment that you might be looking for of, I can do that, or I can make this, or even if you didn't really do that great at it, like just keep trying at it, or even try something else, because it's fun to make things and see what you can do. And especially if you never have before, and then you just start making things, it's like, oh, I can do this. So like, this is cool. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think, and I think it's good for people to create things too. It's helpful. So yeah.
I agree. I think that everyone should create things, even if you're never going to sell them and you're never going to give them away and you're just going to destroy them, it's still good for your soul.
Yeah, for sure. Like just sitting there and doing something, like something other than being on a computer or being on your phone or
Or watching
whatever.
TV. Yep.
Yeah, like it is something different. And honestly, if you think about it, even if you think it looks stupid, or if everyone else think it looks stupid, it still came from your head. So it's
Yep.
really not stupid. Like even if you don't think it looks perfect or whatever, like you came up with it and that's what came out of your own brain. So however you're feeling or whatever you're thinking that day, that's just how it came out. It doesn't necessarily
Yep.
mean that it's ugly. It's just that's just what came out. So it's cool. It's whatever. Yeah.
No, that's true. And we should be celebrating that too, right? Like all of my kids, I tried to get them to create stuff. Like I had both the kids painting and doing clay stuff. I have Robbie painting and doing clay stuff, and even being little, like sometimes I'll have him on my lap and he'll help me feed the fabric through. Now
Yep.
I'm in his hands because I'm scared he's
Yeah.
gonna put his hands under.
Yeah.
But I get him to help me, right? And I have
Yep.
taught him how to do like a little bit of embroidery, which he's terrible at, but he's 4.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
supposed to be
I
good at
mean,
something
I'm
like
still
that.
he probably still really enjoys it and thinks that he's doing something, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
oh, look at me, like look what I'm doing. Like, yeah, it's good to start them at a young age. Like Bryn, my one daughter, she's like she used to really be into crafting and stuff like that. She's gotten a lot more out of it, but I'm like I always am trying to get her to get back into it because she was really good. I know I posted some of her pictures, some of her drawings on Facebook before, so I'm sure you've seen them. And she used to do like these ones where the people would always be with their backs turned, so it wouldn't be with faces, but like they looked so good. And she was like 7 and 8 years old when she was drawing them. I was like, holy cow. She's like me though, to where she can look at a picture and she can copy it, you know, which is still a good skill. Like just because you didn't come
yeah.
up with the picture in your own head, you are still able to draw what you see. That's a really good skill to have, in my opinion. Like a lot of people can't do that. So that's what she would do. She would draw what she could see. So
That's awesome. Um, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and talk to me, Keri.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And it felt like old times too,
I
because it's been.
know. We get to actually talk too and chit chat. People are going to be like, what the heck? This is like just two friends talking back and forth. But yeah,
And it
it's
is
fun.
two friends talking back and forth.
Yeah, it
Because I mean,
is.
I've been
It
friends with
was
you
fun
for
though.
forever.
Yeah, I know. Boo hoo.
I know we're a little far away now.
Yeah, a
Six,
little far. I
17
know.
hours drive.
Yeah, I know. Well, we did come that way the one time, but we were there for our anniversary, so it was kind of like we were busy doing this and that and the other thing. And yeah, it's too bad, but we want to go back there one day. It was really a lot of, I liked it out there actually, but Yeah, we talked about moving out that way actually, just because of the cost of everything, right? Like back when we were talking about it, it was still a lot cheaper. I know a lot of more people have moved there now, especially during the pandemic. So I'm not sure
Yeah,
how cheap it is now, but back when we were looking, it was like way cheaper. You know, you could get a house for like 100,000 or something like that, and it was a pretty nice house. So
you can still
yeah,
get a nice house between 100 and 200,000 here. But
yeah.
but
Anyway,
yeah. So
yeah.
thank you so
Back
much
to
for being
topic.
on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you coming on. I think I'm gonna end it now though because
Yep,
I think he's
it's
gonna
been a
come
long
back.
time.
Hey, it didn't feel like a long time. It felt like just a few minutes.
Yeah, I know.